I would like to talk now about using the unit circle to find points on the circle and evaluate sine, cosine, and tangent. On page 277 in your textbook, if you would like to pause this video and get out your textbook and look at page 277 and follow along with me, looking at number 10, it says, find the point on the unit circle that corresponds to the real number. So in number 10, we're talking about pi over 4. Well, if you look at your unit circle that we just filled out, the ordered pair that goes along with pi over 4 is square root of 2 over 2 and the square root of 2 over 2. Number 12, 4 pi over 3. If you notice, 4 pi over 3 lands in the third quadrant, and the ordered pair is negative 1/2 and negative square root of 3 over 2. Looking at number 14 in our textbook, it asks you to evaluate the sine, cosine, and tangent of the real number. So the first thing we need to do is look at pi over 3 on our unit circle. The ordered pair for pi over 3 is 1/2 and the square root of 3 over 2. And now we should be able to find the sine, the cosine, and the tangent of this function. The sine, as you know, is the y value. The cosine is the x value. And the tangent is sine divided by cosine, which reduces to the square root of 3. Now, number 16 is interesting because it is negative pi over 4. When you look at your unit circle, right, here's our unit circle. Positive pi over 4 is right here. So negative pi over 4 is this direction. That negative pi over 4 is the same as 7 pi over 4. So the ordered pair at 7 pi over 4 is the positive square root of 2 over 2 and negative square root of 2 over 2. So what is the sine, the cosine and the tangent? The tangent is the sine divided by the cosine, which we know that negative square root of 2 over 2 divided by square root of 2 over 2 would be negative 1. Let's look at number 18. Number 18 is asking us to find the sine, the cosine, and the tan at negative 4 pi over 3. So remember we talked about coterminal angles. We need to determine what is the coterminal angle for negative 4 pi over 3. You can add 2 pi to find the coterminal angle. I'm going to get a common denominator of 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Negative 4 plus 6 is 2. So when you look on your unit circle that we filled out, find 2 pi over 3. You will find that the ordered pair for 2 pi over 3 is negative 1/2 and the square root of 3 over 2. So we should be able to find the sine, the cosine, and the tangent. The sine is the y value. The cosine is your x value. And the tangent is the sine divided by the cosine, which is negative square root of 3. Number 20. T equals 5 pi over 3. The ordered pair that goes along with 5 pi over 3 is 1/2 and negative square root of 3 over 2. So we want to find the sine, the cosine, and the tangent. The sine is your y value, the cosine is your x value, and the tangent is the x divided by the y. Remember, you want to rationalize that denominator by multiplying the top and the bottom by the square root of 3. So this is your final answer for the tangent. Your sine is negative square root of 3 over 2, and your cosine is positive 1/2. Look at number 22. Number 22 is asking us for negative 2 pi. Well, if we wanted to find a coterminal angle, we can always add and or subtract 2 pi. So negative 2 pi plus 2 pi will, of course, give you 0, and the ordered pair at 0 is 1, 0. So the sine is 0, the cosine is 1, and the tangent, which is your sine divided by your cosine, is 0 over 1, or 0. Now, moving on to number 24, they not only now want us to find the sine, the cosine, and the tangent, but they want us to find all 6 trig functions. The t value here is 5 pi over 6. You would go to your unit circle to find your ordered pair, which is the square root of 3 over, negative square root of 3 over 2, and 1/2. And then set your trig functions up like we did earlier in class. You have sine, cosine, tangent. The reciprocal of tangent is cotan. The reciprocal of cosine is secant, and the reciprocal of sine is cosecant. So sine is my y, cosine is my x, and tangent is your sine divided by your cosine, which is going to be 1 over negative square root of 3, and that's going to be negative square root of 3 over 3. Now, when you go to do the reciprocal of the cotan, I would look at this spot right here to do the reciprocal, which is going to give you negative square root of 3. This is going to be 2 over negative square root of 3. When you multiply top and bottom by the square root of 3, that's going to give you 2 square roots of 3 over 3, negative. And the reciprocal of cosecant is 2. Number 26. T equals 7 pi over 4. The ordered pair at 7 pi over 4, because you're in the fourth quadrant, is the square root of 2 over 2 and negative square root of 2 over 2. Sine is your y, cosine is your x, and tangent is the sine divided by the cosine, which is going to be negative 1. The reciprocal of tangent is negative 1. The reciprocal of cosine and the reciprocal of sine. So this is going to be 2 over the square root of 2, which is going to be 2 square roots of 2 over 2, which simplifies to the square root of 2. And of course, you've done that work here. You're going to just do the same work here. It's just going to be a negative. Number 28. T equals 3 pi over 2. Your ordered pair here is 0, negative 1. Sine is negative 1. Cosine is 0. The tangent is sine over cosine, which we know you cannot have a 0 in the denominator, so your tangent is actually undefined. Then you're going to do the reciprocal of sine, the reciprocal of cosine, and the reciprocal of tangent. So the reciprocal of tangent would be 0 over negative 1, which equals 0. The reciprocal of cosine would be 1 over 0, which is undefined. And the reciprocal of cosecant would be negative 1. skip over to number 44. When you look at number 44, it says actually use a calculator. All right, when you use a calculator, you must make sure that your calculator is in radian mode because we're talking about radians. How do you make sure your calculator is in radian mode? Find the mode button on your calculator, find where it says degree and radians, make sure that radians is highlighted, and hit enter. How you know when you use radians is whenever you have a pi, and how you know when you to use degree is whenever you have a little degree symbol. So for number 44, it is asking us to evaluate the trig function to 4 decimal places of cosecant of 2 pi over 3. Well, if you look on your calculator, you don't have a cosecant button. But we know that sine is the reciprocal of cosecant. So you can put in 1 divided by sine of 2 pi over 3. So in mode, I want to make sure my calculator is in radian mode. It is. And then I'm going to put in a fraction, alpha y equals 1 over the sine of a fraction 2 pi over 3. And you see that you get a decimal. And you're going to go 4 decimal places. So 1.1547. Number 46 should be fairly easy because that's just straight cosine negative 1.7. So in your calculator, you can do cosine of negative 1.7. You get negative 0.1288. Remember, we're going 4 decimal places. Number 48 is asking us to find the cotangent. And of course, we do not have a cotangent button. So you would use your tangent button and do 1 over the tan of negative 0.9. Negative 0.7935, and then you're going to round that. If you want to do some practice problems in your textbook to help you, where you can actually check the answers in the back of the book, I would suggest looking at page 277, and you can do numbers 5 through 47 odd.